stories unfold, moving slow, we're just killing time. And we know this fear is a crime. Surrender to your love, surrender to your heart, surrender. We are swimmers, caught in the tide, pitch black river, shadows and light, into the night, beautiful swimmers, losing the fight, constant river, shadows and light, into the night. Use that mercy, and we use that mercy, use that mercy, and we use that mercy. Coming home, we're shaking the grass, all alone, so far from the past. Do you know, I see you so clear. Yes, I know, it's happening here. Surrender to your love, surrender to your heart, surrender. We are swimmers, caught in the tide, pitch black river, shadows and light, into the night, beautiful swimmers, losing the fight, constant river, shadows and light, into the night. We are swimmers, caught in the tide, pitch black river, shadows and light, into the night, beautiful swimmers.
Hello. Oh, I didn't change the background. Hold on. It's not nighttime yet. Let's do this one. Hey guys. No, I kind of like this one better. We're going to leave it on this one. Hello. I know there's only a few of you in here because nobody gives a fuck about anything but the Sebastian drama. Hold on. Tony's calling me. Let me mute for a second. Well, actually, I'm not going to mute. Hey, baby, you're on speaker.
Okay.
I'm live.
Oh, okay.
You
I was
made
just
it?
letting you know I made it to work.
Okay, baby.
All right.
All right. You have a good day.
Of course. I sure do love you.
Keep yourself
Good day as
cool.
well.
Keep yourself cool.
Of course.
I tell you,
No worries at all.
I do worries at all.
Either way, I love you, and I'll text you on my lunch.
Okay, baby. I love you.
I love you too.
Have a good day.
Of course, you do too, baby. I love you.
I will, baby. I love you.
Bye.
Bye. Hola. Hello. Hold on. Let me see if I can get my camera right. Hello. Hi. I give a fuck. I know you do, Nicole B. Hello, Roro. Hello, everybody. Today's gonna be pretty much simple because it's just really, I haven't even heard this part two to the Noah Pressgrove podcast, so it's gonna be pretty simple. We're gonna all listen to it together. Last night was a trip. You hang up. No, you hang up. Last night was a trip, and we're going to go over Betty after this stream. I'm going to set up another one because she's on one. Oh, nice. All right, so for those who don't know, the Noah Pressgrove case that, may watch this later and be confused, I would highly suggest you go watch the live I did previous to this. Let me. Because it's got all the details. I do need to correct something, though, that I got wrong. And it was that the girl in the Snapchat picture, right? Let me see if she's still on here. She should be. The girl that made the awkward snap, this girl, she is not the one that lives there. She is the best friend to the one that lives at the house. Okay, so here is the link to the previous live with all the info pertaining to Noah. I mean, it would literally take all day to explain it all. Cutie Pie, it's a boy. He was 19 years old. They were at a 4-day party, aka bender, for Labor Day of 2023. So they had been partying. There were, fights and arguments throughout, and then he went home to shower on Sunday. And then he was asked to come back to the party. So he went home, showered, got picked up, went back to the party, and was found the following morning on the side of the road about a mile from the house. Law enforcement believe he was dumped. They do not think it was a hit and run, but they also said they do not think it was a beating. He had horrible injuries. So it seems like they're leaning towards some of these kids might have had something to do with it, but they're just kind of, I guess, putting things together still. All of the kids cleared out their phones. He had supposedly he flipped or rolled side by side that night and got really dirty. So they all put him in the shower and cleaned him up. And then he wanted to go lay in the bed with the girl. And she was like, no, you can't sleep in the bed. So he was like, fuck it, I'm going for a walk. He couldn't find his other shoes. So he grabbed somebody else's shoes. So he had one of his shoes on and one of somebody else's shoes on. He goes walking, supposedly, and was found a couple of hours later on the side of U.S. Highway 81, naked in a fetal position with only the two mismatched shoes on and extensive injuries. And they do know he was dumped there. So, all right. So let's get started on this one.
Yeah. This is Jimmy Carpenter. Introduce our Bluetooth guest to the second part. So we're going to get started. Everything, Eric, what do you got, buddy? Get started.
Man, I know where we left off, the first podcast.
Okay, hold on. So this is going to be Madison Rollins, sister of Noah. She was not on the podcast we listened to yesterday. Ashley Chadwick is the cousin. Robin Smith is the aunt. The cousin and aunt were both on the podcast we listened to yesterday, but this one has Noah's sister on it.
Oh, just tell us, has any new evidence, any new information?
Good morning, Granny. Hope you're feeling well today.
Excuse me. Yes. So I was informed here recently that the Texas Rangers are now involved. There were some teens, young adults, whatever, from Texas that were a part of this party. And so they've been called in and asked by OHP to step in and help.
Okay. And hey, well, they got to know something for them guys to step in. I mean, you get the Texas Rangers involved. I mean, if I hear anything about the Texas Rangers about looking for me, yeah,
I know, right?
Or if you know anything, and that's the thing, man. I mean, I don't care if it's a scare tactic or not, but we have to get people talking.
Yeah,
this cannot continue to go on and on like this. I was going to ask y'all this off air, but I'm gonna step into this, and we're gonna get to that segment off air, but I was looking at something the other day in Jefferson County. Not only with you guys dealing with this, but dealing with this Coach Coons up there in Ringland. I ain't getting to all that, but I'm just saying all this stuff that's going on in Jefferson County, man, make me kind of nervous. And some of the people that sent us emails, Jimmy, we done read it. We didn't show y'all everything, but I mean, I just don't want to get hopes up.
Yeah.
I think I had sent that to Ashley and Madison too. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't, and I may be in the wrong, but I just want to let you know that there's people out there that still, they know something's going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they live in Jefferson County or not, but they saying, hey man, stay out of Jefferson County. So that's obviously telling me something that they know something that we don't know.
And here's the thing about the Texas Rangers. They know not only investigate, just regular crimes and stuff. They investigate law enforcement shenanigans.
Yes.
So the bad thing is if they get a hold of something that Jefferson County dropped the ball on, it's going to be bad news for those guys.
Yeah.
So
Along with other agencies as well. So
right.
Buckle up.
Buckle up.
That's it. Hey, Madison, we heard from Robin and Ashley. Tell us a little bit about your brother.
Make sure y'all hit the like for me. I am still not in the algorithm, so make sure you hit the like for your girl. I've only got 7 likes. We got 20-something people in here. That is low. Let's get me some likes, guys.
Oh, Noah, he's my middle brother. I have Noah and DJ, and Noah and me were the typical siblings. I think we argued a lot, especially growing up. Aunt Robin can vouch.
Yeah.
But all of my cousins say that I bullied them, but it was 3-on-1. I don't understand.
I don't agree with the boys at all. Madison was a perfect angel.
I was the only girl.
Yes.
So, me and Nova, we grew up together until I became a freshman in high school, and that's when I moved to Waurika. I was living in Comanche until then, and then that's when my mom moved to Ada with Noah and with the 2 boys, and then I moved to Waurika with my father. So we grew up together. We were pretty close. We were always running around with our Nana and playing sports. We played soccer when we were little together, same organizations and stuff like that. So just the average brother sister combo.
Yeah, and do I, after this episode, the first episode aired, then I went to do my digging and noticed that, fortunately, I had the opportunity to coach you in basketball and stuff like that. When I found out that it was you, man, it just kills me. It killed me. And then after my daughter had texted and said you had texted her, and then that's when it kind of brought it to light. Noah he came to practice with you a couple times. I can remember, and it's like I've been knowing you, just like I told Ashley and Robin after the first show, man. It's just like, man, even though they was in the studio, it's totally different that we got you on the phone, Bluetooth in. But once you get in here, man, it's like we know you guys, but didn't know that I really knew. Small world. But man, we want to get justice for this. At least so you guys can move forward and understand, and the people that was involved with this stuff, man, is going to have to be held accountable. Doesn't matter if you know anything. It's been way too long. Me, I'm the type of guy, if I know something, I'm gonna go ahead and say something. I'm not gonna try to cover nothing up. I think we had left what threw me is a lot of the stuff that threw me just backwards was the clothes. I don't know why they're still hunting me while people want to hold on to that. And I've been thinking about that for the past, couple of weeks. Like, I don't get it. It's like, if there's got to be DNA, the way technology is now, it's not like we're in the 30s.
Yeah.
Right.
If I had his shirt, first of all, I wouldn't have took it anyway, because the next day or next morning when I got home and, hey, my boy's missing. Hey, I got a shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been going around this over and over. I've been standing in front of the mirror, talking, saying the same thing I'm telling you guys to make sure you're registering. Am I saying this right? Am I processing this right? If I would have woke up, if I'd have left the party early, right, and then found out Jimmy would call me, hey, man, Noah's missing. Oh, shit. I got a shirt. Maybe something on it. I don't know. But I don't understand why there's nothing. And maybe there is. Maybe they're not telling us. Maybe. But I don't understand why people are holding on to that.
Yeah. And number 2, Noah walking down the driveway, leaving the party supposedly butt naked. What kind of friend is going to let Noah do that? Right.
So when he left the party, he had on the shorts that were found off of his body in the road. So supposedly he was not butt naked when he was walking away from the house.
So he
also had 2 different shoes on, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. One of his and another party goers.
So he's just going to get down the road and strip butt naked.
Right, Southern Gal?
Makes perfect sense.
I agree. Like, those clothes are very important. Like, why not be like, hey, if you took a piece of this clothing, we need it.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Madison? I mean, what's your outlook on this?
Well, it's very hard to imagine because of the person Noah was. And I actually, with a few of the girls involved, I played basketball with them in school. My husband graduated with the host in his class. Like, I've known these girls my entire career. And to imagine that Noah was in a situation where he wasn't safe is kind of hard to wrap your mind around. And then for Noah to be, quote unquote, known for getting mad and walking off, if that was his normal tendencies, when he didn't come back, that's whenever something should have triggered in his friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, they should have realized, hey, Noah didn't come back. He always comes back. Yeah. And he left halfway naked. Didn't we go look? Like, I don't understand.
With 2 different shoes on.
Everything you saying, and I'm glad we got you on, is it makes sense, man. It's like normal people. And I came up with that analogy with us in here. If we all at a party and we hanging out, man, I mean, if it's 50, 60 people at a time, we're not going to know the specific time somebody left. But you narrow that down to 10 people, 15 people. I'm very upset. I observe everything. I can tell you when Robin or Madison or Ashley, what time you left, or who was you talking to, or did you pick up this beer or whatnot.
Listen at him breathing
for somebody
over
to
the
sit here
microphone
and
again.
not
Listen,
know.
guys, this is not me. The breathing. Oh, man. The breathing over the microphone is not me.
That this dude walked out. And then also let him walk out naked.
Yeah. Oh, they knew. They knew. There's video of the 2 sisters, the host and her sister, screaming at each other on the front porch about Noah and him, what happened and him leaving. They knew.
Screaming about.
Wow.
They were screaming at each other about Noah and what happened and him leaving. There's video of it.
Yeah.
They knew from the start.
And I guess another thing I'm trying to get to is being guys. If I'm friends with Noah,
wow,
a good friend, and I see my boy walking down naked, I'm like, I might let you get to the stop sign, and then I'm like, I gotta get my boy. He tripping.
He's tripping.
Right.
It's like, Jimmy, get your ass in here, buddy. What are you doing, man?
I'm mind boggled while all these people that was there, if they
knowing that he was upset or quote unquote what they say.
Yeah, this is stupid.
Why wouldn't you go after him? Even if you let him have like a cool off period, why wouldn't you do your own searching?
Like,
okay, so they said they did. That's something that they said they did with the private investigator. A couple of them told her that they had gone out in the side by side and looked for him for a little bit, but Madison, didn't they say that they went onto the road and everything? And I remember having the conversation with you about if they had been in that culvert, I mean, they would have been eye level with him. Like, it just didn't make sense.
Because the bottom it's just like road, small bottom, and then high ground by the railroad tracks. If they were cruising down the side, they totally would have saw him.
But they're saying they went out there.
If he actually left the house at 3:30, like they're claiming he did, then he was missing for about 2 hours before he was found
and searched for him. But
so if we are to believe what they say and that he left walking at 3:30 in the morning, there was only a 2-hour span of something happening to him.
They didn't see him. I mean, he would have been scene,
Yeah.
especially driving where they were driving or where they stated they were driving.
Now, when they found the body, I don't know if you can release this. You don't have to answer if you know. Did they find all of his teeth? Every one that was missing?
I don't know if they found everyone that was missing.
Okay. So you don't
I
know.
know that the father of the best friend
Mhm.
had some in his hand.
What?
He said he picked it up.
Why would he do that?
Why would he do that? So the best friend is the one that goes on site, right? He's the one that swears up and down it doesn't fucking matter what law enforcement says. I'm not out of data. That was Gammy's phone.
Mine's been out.
Okay, that was Gammy's phone, not mine. Jack is the one that's all press saying that he was not beaten. He was not beaten. It was definitely a hit and run. But law enforcement said no, it was not a hit and run. So that friend is the one that came up on the scene before troopers had even gotten there. And his daddy, Caleb, put Noah's teeth in his pocket.
Boy, if we had cameras in here to see my face.
I
So
know.
wait a minute, wait a minute. I mean, you're a grown ass adult. You've seen crime stories and stuff like that. You should know better to not touch anything.
You would think.
So we picking up damn teeth, like we picking up. I guess if I'm a rock finder, or and put. So what he had Noah's teeth in his pockets.
That's not how it was explained to me. He said that it was on the ground by his feet, and he was standing there, and he was just looking down, and he was just trying to focus and figure out what it was, and he bent down and picked it up. And
potential evidence.
Oh,
we just
okay.
picked up.
Yeah, man.
Well, that's better than making it seem like he walked around picking up teeth and shoving them in his pocket. I mean, let's be real.
Like
the reason why I'm bringing up teeth is if they're not all recovered, that means that one or maybe multiple teeth are still on that property, and where the supposedly accident, ATV or UTV accident happened, or he was in a fight, accident happened, or whatever, there's probably still some teeth on the property if they weren't all recovered. And that goes again, Jefferson County Sheriff dropping the ball and not doing a thorough investigation, a thorough background check on these kids. Because I was talking to Eric when we got done with part one, and if they were going to take Noah's body out there and just dump it out on the road, they're going to do it in a truck.
Which somebody did. Law enforcement said he was dumped there.
Because nobody's going to throw a bleeding body in a car and,
listen to the breathing, bro. I cannot. The full load podcast, y'all got to do better with breathing in your mics, bro.
Put on my interior, this, that, and the other. So Noah's blood would be in one of those trucks that were out there. So at one point, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department should have got one of those, all the trucks out there and did a DNA search.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Too late now.
And try to find blood splatter and stuff like that, because Noah's going to be inside that truck bleeding. And that was possibly dropped too. Y'all don't know of any trucks that got impounded, do you?
Nope.
So
nope. And I know the News 9 story. They had found a warrant out of Oklahoma City that talked about that OHP had filed. That was talking about
of Southern Gal. Sorry, I want to pause this for a second. How was your doctor's appointment? You feeling better? They give you some. Well, no, you're not feeling better yet, but did they give you some medicine to help?
Possibly being dumped from the bed of or from a truck. It didn't say the bed, but from a truck.
It's going to be in a truck. So I mean, because I'm not saying these kids are normal, but normal people are not going to put a bleeding body inside of a car, right? I mean, you wouldn't, right? If you had a car,
you wouldn't think so. But as we just learned, Cora and Cole Twombly, the ones that unalived Veronica and Jillian Kelly in Oklahoma and buried them 15 feet deep in a deep freezer, They made their daughter go and clean their interior of the truck out. So they did put the women in their truck inside of it.
Car, and there's no way that I would.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and also, man,
Awesome.
you just let them on the table there. Also, another thing is 99% of those kids are boys. I'm pretty sure they drive around trucks in that area, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's a small community. We'll say little country. Nobody's driving around cars, man. Everybody got their trucks or whatnot. But
Cole and Cora had Cora's daughter when they got back from the mission, basically kidnapping and unaliving Veronica and Jillian. They told Cora's daughter to go out there and clean the inside of the truck out. And there was blood and stuff she was having to clean up. It's disgusting.
Whatever the case may be. But another thing that we had touched on too was like we got a lot of emails and calls, man, of the people asking that we're all just shocked why they didn't go to that house.
Yes.
There was not, I mean, that's where the last place he was seen.
It is.
And they chose not to go to the house. That's a lot of the questions that we're getting. And I'm still stumped on that. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys
why
are
not
too.
go
I don't
to the
understand
house?
it. So
I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out here.
You would think if Noah was found on the side of the road, you knew that they had been doing this 4-day bender, aka party, for Labor Day weekend. Why, if you found him on the road, did you not think, okay, well, he's naked, he's on the side of the road, and he's dead. He was dumped here. Now, that's from law enforcement. Dumped here. Why would they not think to go to the last place he was fucking at? See, this is what I mean by Oklahoma and their shoddy investigations. It's awful.
Jefferson County Police or Sheriff's Department, their phone number. Let's see here. Their phone number is 580-228-2375.
And this isn't far
Facebook,
from
Jefferson County Sheriff's Department.
If I'm not mistaken, this isn't far from Jillian Kelly and Veronica Butler. I'm going to check it.
I'm sure they got an email, but I'm not saying give them a call and stuff like that, but I'm just throwing it out there.
hey, that's it. I do what's right. Like I said, we want if they getting flooded with calls, so be it, because obviously they dropped the ball on this.
Yeah, that's Jefferson County Sheriff's Department in Waurika, Oklahoma. Just so our people out there know and everything. So,
and one question, a couple questions I want to ask you guys, and all three of y'all can answer this because I want to hear it from different perspectives from different all three of y'all. How has this pursuit of Noah's justice impacted y'all families and y'all personal lives? Whoever want to go first.
Madison, you start.
Okay. So what has really been something that has impacted our family is social media. And I'm not going to say it's been positive nor on a but all we could do was chase it.
Well, what happened? Oh, it's loading for a second. Sorry, my shit kicked me out. Wah. What the hell? Sorry, guys.
Man, what's going on? Somebody knows something. But immediately to jump to, he shouldn't have did this, they shouldn't have did this. I don't understand that.
He was not only murdered, he was dumped on the side of the road like trash.
Yeah.
Trash.
Allegedly. Let's throw that in there.
No,
Allegedly.
not
Allegedly. But we all-
allegedly. It's not allegedly if law enforcement says it, right?
I mean, come on. If it was a hit and run, there'd be blood all over the road.
Well, the OHP told us it definitely was not a hit and run.
Yeah. So we know that. So what about you, Ashley? Ashley, we'll go to you. How
It yeeted me.
The pursuit impacted you and your family.
Oh man. Being a mom, it really impacted. Not just that he's family,
about 4 hours.
but I could remember whenever I did hear the rumors of the story of what went on in my mind, and even to this day it
Kathy.
still bothers me. And I'm gonna try not to cry, but it's almost there.
No, you good.
It's all right.
I can only it's replays into your mind as like hypothetically did like all I can just see him just reaching for somebody to just help him, and not one person stood up for him or tried to stop it. So it's like, like the end is coming and this is it. Like the shit is here. We're this far and I literally have no one. That's probably the biggest hitter for me. And my son is 15 and he's going to want to go to house parties and such and hang out with friends or whatever. And I'm not the strictest mom. He's my one and only child, the only one I can have. But I want him to be able to have certain experiences, but then I don't. Rami. Simply because of this situation. You don't know who your real friends are. You don't know if you are into a situation or get caught up into a situation. May not always just be on your own doing, but are they really going to be there for you when the shit hits the fan? Those sorts of things is kind of what impacts me as a mom, as someone who's trying to see the bigger picture, especially for my child's future.
It's scary.
And to piggyback off what you said too is like I'm at with 3 daughters, and Madison, you can vouch for this. Is the same way I parented was the same way I coached. So it's like, man, just being truthful with the kids. I always say, man, the kids think that everybody's their friend in high school. Oh man, everybody's my friend. Everybody, man, I can tell you right now, and Jimmy knows this. I say this all the time as I'm standing before you guys, sitting here before you guys. Man, a friend is, that person, if you really in need.
Oh my God,
say if
Remy.
you hypothetically, you 3 o'clock in the morning, for some reason you got thrown in jail. You can call, you know who to call because you got one call.
Right.
You're going to make one phone call. You're not going to make 5. You're not going to make 25. Got one. And out of that is that person that's going to come get you that bail money. Ain't going to ask no questions. When you going to pay me back? What you doing? They're going to come get you.
It's going to be your ride and die.
Exactly. So kids, we think that everybody in our freshman class.
Hey, VK, sir.
Yes.
Everybody in his freshman class, and we talking about probably maybe like 20
probably
in that class in the small community. Just playing with you, Ashley. But we know in the small communities how many kids it is. So in Waurika, what was the senior class? About 15 to graduate.
Smoke them if you got them.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. So, but he think that all 20 of those are his friends, but he got to realize that 19 of them really don't like him because of the way he is, the way he look, or who he's dating, kind of like the Noah situation. And you can get that. And if somebody tells me different, no, man, everybody's jealous in a certain way. Especially being a kid. If you that kid and you see Noah getting all this, or he's good in sports, and you tired of hearing Noah, and when you hear that name, there was people that's sitting up there that he thought that was his friends that really thought that they cut for him. And that day when it happened, I guarantee you, and if you listening to this, I guarantee you that person that sat there and you was rooting for that stupid shit.
Right.
You was glad because you couldn't be a man yourself or a woman. If you know it didn't like you, because I think y'all recalled he said, no, this stupid bitch, this fat bitch, whatever. No, you can't get Noah. You couldn't get him. That's okay. Move on. There's somebody for everybody. But to sit up here and be quiet and watch somebody get unalived,
yeah,
man, it don't make no sense. What about you, Robin?
Envy is a dangerous thing.
The fact that you in your personal life.
It's impacted.
Pull that mic out. There you go.
It's impacted us pretty.
You can pull that
greatly.
back too. Yeah.
You know, living where I live and how closely intertwined Noah was with, you know, our family in general. It's been difficult. You know, we have to be there for Deb and for Grandma. You know, there's hard days. There's hard days, and you know, we have to be there for them to lean on. And then we have hard days ourselves, but we don't want to put that on them, obviously. You know, my husband is very angry with the situation. He and Noah had a very strong bond. And so he's just
her husband is if that's the aunt, okay, yeah.
He wasn't our kid, and I'm not trying to, like, you know, take responsibility
Me too,
for that,
Remy.
but he was like one of our kids. Like, he grew up around us constantly, and you can ask Madison. He spent a lot of time with us. Yeah. As he got a little older, obviously he wanted to hang out with his friends more and party more. But he was still pretty dang close with us. Him and Clayton were, you know, intertwined.
It is sad.
That's been hard because Clayton somewhat runs with some of the same crowd that Noah did. And so, you know, he's friends and or acquaintances with some of these kids that were at this party. And it's, you know, really hard to not have that judgment on them because we don't know. We don't know if, you know, if he was taken off and these kids actually don't know what happened. You know, we don't know exactly what happened. But then again, I don't trust him. Yeah. You know, I don't trust him at all. And so that has been a real struggle to not just lock down my own child.
Yeah. Right now, I'm sure it's hard to trust anybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially I know obviously Ashley, you're somewhere else, and then Madison, you're off somewhere else. But as I'm gonna just say you're in the community, Robin. You see some of these people. Yeah, because they got to come in there. I'm not, you know, we're not gonna say what you do, but you see them all the time.
Oh yeah.
And do they say anything to you, or do they put their head down, or?
I mean, most of them just act like nothing has happened, and you know, I try to be the same. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not, and just seeing them out in the community, seeing them at games, seeing them at wrestling matches. That, you know, I see them all the time and everywhere. It's not just where I work. And
would
so
be hard.
You know, I have to put on that brave face every day and try not to be angry.
Yeah.
You know, and some days it's harder than others. Some days I wake up and I am pissed. I am still pissed, you know, and I mean, understandable, but some days are harder than others. So,
man, I know I'm gonna put this out there, like, and this goes for, like, you know, Madison, we know from day one how I am with you, you know, I'm always free. But I said this is the last podcast, but obviously, you know, I know Ashley, you like I said, it's different. I think it's different. When I say this, it's because Robin is seeing these people every day. And what I'm getting at is once this is solved, it's going to be somebody that's walking in there, that's been around your face. Listen, I can't tell you what to do. I don't know. I'm not in that position. Man, I hope, you know, when you do find out, I hope your husband's around. Because, you know, I don't know, man. You might want to jump across the table, like, you know, and choke the shit out that motherfucker or whoever that was sitting here next to you every day, coming in your face, asking, you know, that stupid shit, you know, and smiling.
Smiling. Have a great day, Robin.
So now you see what I'm saying? Because Madison, if you get that news, you're off in a different, you know, city. You actually, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is this. She sees these people every day, every day, and she has to see them every day. If you're coming in and you're doing whatever, just your daily tasks, you see them every day. So I just hope that, man, I'm gonna pray for you, man. Hope you have that strength when that, because it's gonna happen, man. Yeah. It's gonna happen. This ain't gonna stay quiet.
I pray every day that you know, something happens, that there's an arrest, there's a break, there's something, because it's torture. It is
very
freaking torture.
Yeah.
See, normally we take a commercial break. We're going to skip commercials during this episode because I want to get everything out here.
Oh yeah.
Let's dive into the Texas Rangers. What happened to get them involved?
So they did something. OHP did something called what is it called? It's a net, GeoNet, and they did a 1.5 mile radius around the house. And they tracked all cell phones that came into that net within a time period. And there were two phones that hit, that left the house, went to the spot that Noah was found, and then went back to the house. So
hold up. She's saying the Texas Rangers are now involved, and this is why. Let's hear that again.
Came into that net. Did something called
commercial during this episode because I want to get everything out here.
Oh yeah.
Let's dive into the Texas Rangers. What happened to get them involved?
So they did something. OHP did something called what is it called? It's a net, GeoNet, and they did a 1.5 mile radius around the house, and they tracked all cell phones that came into that net within a time period. And there were two phones that hit
within a time period. And there were two phones. So within the time period of Noah supposedly walking away from the party and being found, in that time period, there were two phones that went in and out to the crime scene.
That left the house, went to the spot that Noah was found, and then went back to the house.
Wow. So where are the fucking charges? I know some people may say that's not enough. That's pretty. That's pretty substantial.
So I know that much.
That night, Matt. Right? That night.
They didn't give me the exact time that those two phones hit. But you know, obviously that's a little something.
Yeah,
So yeah.
Did they tell you, did she say, I can't remember, did she say she doesn't know who those phones, they probably wouldn't tell her that.
Some Texas kids
Surely
were
they would.
at this party.
Yeah.
And they actually became persons of interest, so to speak.
As far as I know, they've never officially named anybody a person of interest. They have their ideas, and they've told me who they think.
Oh. So they've told her who they think. Now, see, isn't that dangerous too? Like, I love to know that she knows who they think because I'm a nosy bitch. But on the other side of that, isn't that kind of dangerous? What if she decided to take justice into her own hands, or her husband? No, you know, like, ooh.
But they aren't 100%, you know, and they don't. Nobody wants to put it out there if it's not true. We don't want to. We're not out to ruin somebody's life, especially if they weren't involved.
Look at that baby.
That is not something that we want to do. But they do have their ideas of who they're focusing on for sure. You know, there was Texas kids involved, and I wasn't given the specific.
But okay, so it's Texas kids involved. They were at the party. But this was filmed in the first episode was filmed December. So Noah was murdered on September 4th. They did the first podcast in December of 2023. So September, 3 months later. And then the second podcast is January 2024. So the Rangers came in, they have their ideas. We're in what? June, basically? January, February, March, April, May, June. It's been 5 months. Bruh.
As to why, but the Texas Rangers were called in.
And you would think if they was called in,
Mine
they
too.
have something, right? I would think, I don't know. You know, I would think that they would have something.
Okay, so I'm not crazy to think that that's kind of dangerous for her to know who the law enforcement believe it. That's like she just was talking about how her husband is a fucking wreck about this.
You would think, because you would have to, which Ashley was telling me, I don't know a whole lot about the Texas Rangers. I don't live here in Texas.
I need one of those memes to pop up, like an overlay of like one of those sad looking fish off SpongeBob, and it needs to say bruh.
But Ashley was telling me that they don't have like a jurisdiction. They can go anywhere. They can go any state. They can do anything they want, basically.
Yeah. The thing about Texas Rangers, like I said earlier, is not only they investigate the criminal side of the case, they can investigate the criminal law enforcement side. Yeah. So if they suspect shenanigans going on in the internally in the department, they can go, certainly they've got all rights to go after Jefferson County Sheriff. Not saying that that's what they're fixing to do. Not saying that at all.
Yeah.
But they have that power.
Oh, yeah. And then, and I guess and this is back in the day. I guess if anybody want to really look at it, you can look at it when they went out to Bonnie and Clyde back in the day. Hey, they was all over the states, but who ended up getting them? Hey, the Texas Rangers went up in there following them. It is what it is. So, like I said, man, I know for a fact people that's involved is listening because you're scared. And I'm going to go back to what I did the first time. I'm talking straight to you, man. All you're doing is prolonging this. You're looking over your fucking shoulder. It is what it is. You know they're coming. They coming. So you might as well just go ahead and try to get out in front of it and say, hey, listen, this is what I know.
Yeah. Even if it was an accident.
And if you go do time, I don't know what it is. If you still young, because what was Noah?
19.
So I'm saying if some of those kids is 19, 20, 21, man, you got to do time. Say I'm just putting this number out. I don't know what you're going to do. If you're doing 5 years for what you did, man, you still 26. You get out 26, 27. You still, you can, you still got a life. Yeah. But if you go sit here and not say anything, nah, man, you're prolonging this.
I want to take it straight to the adults that's involved in this. The people that supposedly picked up teeth.
Yeah, put them in their pockets.
Put it in their pockets and stuff like that. I want you to understand one thing. Yeah, okay. I get it that you wanted to protect your kids in a way, right? But you got to think about Noah and his adults in his life. He's forever 19. He's gone. All right.
Frozen
in time. Forever 19. Your kids or your people that you're responsible for, they still have a chance. Even if they're involved in this case, they still have a chance to have a life. Noah doesn't have that chance anymore.
And your family can still hug your kids, man. We're talking to families that can't. They got to go, visit Noah at a gravesite and stuff like that. And y'all still can have Christmas and open up presents. I was going to mention this too, Jimmy. We had some lady, and obviously I know she listened. She's from that area, Jefferson County, to make a comment. Ma'am, listen, you listen to us. I really don't care if you do or not. This is important.
Laura.
I'm sorry if we dropped the F-bomb. Don't sit up here and email us talking about this was great, but y'all use.
Hey, bro, I don't understand. This is what we need. This is the type of situation we need pressure campaigns done on. This is it.
The F-bomb too much, ma'am. If me saying that this is some fucking shady shit going on, I'm sorry. This is not for you. But obviously, if that ruffled your feathers, obviously we know you know something. So you're not going to stop this train, ma'am. I can tell you that right now. I'm not going to put that out on the air because that's our numbers. We see what comes in. And I can tell you, it's a lot of people in that county, surrounding county, that's listening. So sorry, ma'am, if that we ruffled your feathers because I dropped the fuck word.
Yeah, I mean, we're all adults here.
We're all adults.
Fuck
This is a
your
podcast.
feelings. Fuck your feelings.
It is what it is. So I had to mention that.
Yeah.
She go listen. So that's for you.
So,
No, she is, man. Come on. She go listen.
Oh man, I mean, if that's as
Yeah.
much as whatever,
Now-
I mean, we're dealing with the death here.
No, this is what I'm saying.
Really,
We don't have people comment saying,
forget the F word.
hey, tell the parents
Come on.
to keep fighting. Now that's the F word. Tell them to keep. Maybe that's what she's talking about because she's scared because her people is involved and they don't want the parents to keep the family to keep fighting. That's another F word, family fighting.
Yeah.
But anyways,
well, here's the thing. I mean, even if this thing doesn't get solved, and I think it will be pretty soon, we're gonna bring this back into our podcast studio again. We're gonna keep fighting for this family because this family hits home. Eric trained Madison, which anybody that knows Eric, that he coaches and everything, that becomes part of his family. So we made this personal.
yeah, it's personal with me.
So-
I mean, as soon as that day I found out, the next morning when I did, and then Madison contacted Michaela, we knew. And then that's when it was. It was like, hey, I'm in this fight just like y'all. I don't know what I can do. I mean, I know we got the microphone. Obviously, we're roughing some feathers, So so like I said, am I gonna say, oh yeah, man, this got solved because of the full old pot? No, we ain't saying that.
We don't
man.
want that. We just want it to get solved.
We are giving you guys a platform and scaring these people that's listening to come ahead and come forward.
Yeah.
Even if they can tell y'all something. At least you're doing something.
Yeah. What else new do we got going?
Jason, that's so true.
I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah.
So we got the Texas Rangers involved.
So the search of the phones, like they got a lot of really good information. They didn't tell me what any of that information was. They just told me they got a lot of really good information.
So they finally FOIA'd all the phones.
I guess so.
Okay,
That's
good. That's
hopefully this information, they said a lot of it wasn't necessarily pertaining to Noah's case, but it could help them in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they didn't tell me exactly what it was though.
So that's pretty much some positive developments, in the progress of the justice. How has the community?
Huh?
How has the community, came out and has the community raised awareness besides you guys?
Yeah, the community's been great. They have been just wonderful. We've had people that we've never even met out there putting up flyers and making banners and t-shirts and passing them out to people. We've got people that we have met, people that we know that are just rallying around us and, just supporting us in any way they possibly can. I get messages all the time, just words of encouragement. And, people tell me all the time how they're praying for us every day and how, they're hoping that something happens, that this gets solved. We had the Noah Pressgrove wrestling tournament. The coach at Comanche, the wrestling coach, he had, created that, and he wants it to be an annual thing. And that's a lot of those proceeds are going into the Noah Pressgrove scholarship, which Madison, Dalen, Noah's brother, and I are all the board members for. And that's to supply, college scholarships to Comanche seniors, and then also to help kids who can't afford, say, wrestling shoes or football cleats or mouth guards or singlets or, whatever they need. They can apply to get that so that they don't have to skip a sport they love because they can't afford the gear.
Yeah.
And so that, that the outshowing from that alone, that tournament was just amazing. so many people showed up, so many people entered. We raised a good amount of money on that. We've had somebody organize a car show in memory of Noah. And that was awesome. That brought in a few $1,000s. And so, and that was all donated to the scholarship fund. And so it's been amazing. Like, this community has turned up, whether it was, donating for the GoFundMe, going to the wrestling, and, paying entry fees, or you could just donate. You didn't have to wrestle. You could just donate. And there was quite a bit of money collected from just donations itself. And then, the car show. And so and then also just the support, the physical support that's been there, and the words of kindness and love.
Any advice? What type of advice would you give any family? And all three of y'all, I want to hear from all three of y'all on this. That's going through this process that you guys are going through. What advice would y'all give them?
Don't stop fighting. As much as you feel like you have hit a brick wall, and it feels like that from more moments than none, just continue. Just have that support system, because eventually people, it dies down. Like, it's a lot in the beginning.
Listen, I keep thinking I hear stomping around, like, because I've got my headset on, and I feel like I'm hearing like thumping and stomping around in my house, and it's him breathing in the microphone.
Throughout time, it kind of dwindles down some. But those that stick with you through it all, just hang on. And not so much that this is always the constant topic, throughout lives, but have those conversations that are a little bit far from it. Just kind of make it personal about what's going on in your everyday life. And then, you can always loop back around to the topic at hand. But just don't stop fighting. Continue to do as much as you can, and educate yourself as much as you can throughout the process.
Man, what about you, Madison?
So, one thing that I've learned through this whole experience with Noah, and that really will stick with me the rest of my life, is how to be like that strong person for another family in a situation like this, because the community did such a great job reaching out to us and trying to help us and feed us. I feel like that's pretty standard. A lot of people do that. And just having people know that when you go through things like this, no matter how old you are, I'm 23, and I never thought that I would need to tell somebody how I want to be buried or what I want to happen at my funeral at 23, because you don't think about that. And I know that 19-year-olds can't tell you what they want, but you don't see death when you're this young, when you think about it like this. And I think that's something that I've learned, that you need to make a plan regardless. You need to be able to talk to somebody and openly discuss, like, hey, this is really what I want. And it broke my heart, because I remember planning Noah's funeral, and like, we wanted to do right by him. I had a couple of different things, like opinions on what we should do and this, that, and the next. And I know that all of our hearts just wanted to do what was right for him. But none of us, we've never buried somebody so young. We never had to go through that. And this was one of the closest, other than my grandpa, this was the closest family member that has died for me. And so it was all a new experience. And I know that as I become older and I see more situations like this, I'll know what to do for others that made an impact on me. I can remember somebody bringing like toilet paper and paper towels to the house, and I was like, how smart are you? Like, that is the perfect thing to bring. We have tons of food, but we're going to run out of toilet paper. Like, that was so nice, like just being able to see that on the inside and reflect out of all your sadness, like, wow, like there's some people out there that genuinely have made a difference in our grief.
Yeah.
What about you, Rob?
I've learned slowly how to have grace under pressure. Madison has really been, she's young, but she's been teaching me a lot when it comes to the situation and how to have grace under pressure. There's days that, like I said, there's hard days.
And you know what? And I hate to stop you on that. I was just want to stop you and say, piggyback off the last thing you said. And this is what I seen. Like you got to have either you want to coach or not coach. My deal was I can see the good in people and I can see this. Like Madison, I knew that she gets it. It's like Madison been here for a while. You see what I'm saying? Like she came out 23. No, because she was a very smart kid.
Oh yeah.
And I always used to tell her stepmom.
He's saying you're old at Madison.
She know the conversations that we had, and it's always I looked up to her. Here's the thing, Madison, and it seemed like even the girl that you brought to us is like you, man. You the reason why I got onto you the way I got onto you is because like you're a leader. You've been here before. Everybody's going to lean on you because it kind of seemed like, man, you know how to take this stuff, even though you hurting as well. But it's unfortunately, man, that this is something that you got to deal with in your early life. And we don't plan for this. We don't go and say, hey, we don't talk about this around the table. Like, this is how we go plan a funeral. This is we're going to do this. But one thing I can say that I tell my daughters is this. Wherever they go, and maybe some of my listeners is listening to this, and maybe Ashley and Robin and Madison, maybe this is to help you out when you have kids later on down the road and they get older. It's always told them wherever they go, because everybody has a cell phone, is snap pictures of license plates. And my daughters know when they date somebody, that's the first thing I ask for, because that's all I have. If they take off and they go, all I got is that person who picked them up. I got your fucking vehicle. People think, and my daughters, they know this. And I say, it don't have to be suspicious, but they know. No matter what, ask them to take a selfie. Stand in front of your car. My daughters would, they laugh at this, but I tell them all the time, they're like, Dad, you're right. Say, man, everybody want to take a picture. Hey, let me take a picture of you. And then we snapping away. And they send that to me. And if something happened, now I got your license plate. Now we can go forward. Yeah. And I got something. So hopefully anybody that's listening to this, even if your son Ashley wants to go out, just tell him we all have our cell phones. He don't have to be suspicious. He can just walk outside and say, hey man, what's going on? This is a bad car. I like this. You just snapping away. Now we got something. Now we know your car was here. You can't hide that. You see what I'm saying? It's just small things and people think I'm just crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I just want to make sure I got something to stand on and we can go forward and we can say, hey, this is what's going on. So I think we take it that, to that point and just making sure our kids are responsible. They still can have fun, but making sure, hey man, before you do this, do this. Before your son, hey, who's picking you up? And then your son say, hey, so-and-so. Hell, you go out there, Mom. You can go out there, Mom. Like, y'all two standing in that car, man. Y'all looking good. You lying, man. You like, hey, they covered the license plate. Spread apart a little bit. Put your hand up there, man. As long as you got that license plate, man, you know who your son left with. Yeah. And there we go.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Ashley said a while ago on her impact statement. Noah was out there alone. Nobody was helping him.
Right.
When he got in this situation, I want you to sit back and imagine yourself in this situation for a minute. Somebody's wanting to hurt you and you're alone. You're supposedly friends or somewhere around you, but you have no help. How in the hell would that make you feel?
And you're looking at the person that's doing this, that you thought that was your friend.
That's what breaks my heart. I can't think about that because it just...
Well, it kills me.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't like to think about that either.
Yeah.
Because Noah, I mean, he's pretty well cut up. I mean, he was muscular. I mean, he could probably handle himself. Maybe one-on-one situation and stuff like that. But
I mean, he could take me down.
Yeah. But let's throw weapons involved in this or something like that. If that's what happened, I'm not saying that's what happened. But just think about that for a minute. I mean, how scared was he when he was about to take his last breath?
No. And it's just crazy.
Now, I'm sorry to be so graphic, Madison, Ashley, Robin. I mean, but I want people out there that's listening to think about this for a minute.
Yeah.
They need to think
Because
about
this
that.
I think we think about it often because we also try to keep that humble mind of we don't ever want to, like, I don't want to make Noah's friends seem like enemies to me or my family. If it turns out in the end they did nothing wrong and I didn't do right by Noah because Noah was so kind, he would not have thought anything wrong of nobody.
Right.
And here I am, I'm making up, I have my own theories, I have my own ideas, and I don't want to just go ahead and make somebody the enemy when I don't know. But then at the same time, you don't know. So that's all you have is what's in your mind. And so you're trying so hard to, okay, this is so-and-so, and this is Noah's friend, right? This is Noah's friend.
Mm-hmm.
But then you think about what happened at the party, and you're like, is that Noah's friend? Like that, we go back and forth in our brains constantly with stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that y'all went through different scenarios and different theories, and you've seen, Robin, people out there, and you're like, is this the motherfucker? And I'm sorry, I said motherfucker.
No.
But it's
Oh my gosh.
You'll be sorry about that.
But is this the dude that, or female or whatever? Is this the one that took Noah?
Mhm. It passes
Mm-hmm.
through my head far more often than I would like, for sure.
Yeah.
To just not have that trust, to have that, and like I said, we don't know. We don't know if everybody there witnessed it or if nobody witnessed it. We don't know. But just that not knowing, it makes it hard to trust. It makes it hard to, keep that grace under pressure sometimes. And, it's just, it's a struggle every day, but thankfully on 99.9% of the days I've won that struggle. I can't say that I'm perfect, but
even if this theory was correct and he had an accident on the UTV and it seriously wounded him, and then they took him inside the shower and tried to clean him up and tried to revive him,
Well,
this, that, and the other.
Still a crime there.
Still a crime.
yeah, they didn't call for help. That's all they had to do was call for help.
That's all you have to do.
Right.
Any
That's
normal people.
Yeah.
And then they tried to cover it up because they don't want that heat out there on that party, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that is definitely a theory, but it's still a criminal act.
Yep.
Man.
So
and they, whoever didn't call for help, I mean, they're responsible. They are responsible. I mean, regardless of if it was an accident or not, like the minute you chose not to call for help, that gave you a share of that responsibility right there.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna speak to the people that's listening, man. Like, listen, your ass better not do no crime in front of me. You talking about snitches get stitches, man. I'm telling on everybody. So it is what it is, man. Like, shit. Hey, I'm a lie to you and say, hey, man, let me get home. We go. This is a pack, and we ain't gonna talk, man. As soon as I get home, I'm whistling like a canary. Shit, I'm telling. So who's ever listening to this dude? Listen, man, I'm telling you right now.
It's coming down.
They y'all made that pack and y'all put your hand.
Metamom, I put, hey Avery, I believe that is the link, I believe, to the part 1 that I did yesterday. It has all the details that you need.
Hands in like you're breaking a basketball game. That shit ain't gonna work, bro. I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna work. Whoever you think that's your friend, you nervous right now. Y'all sitting up here, what they know? Well, let's listen to the full little podcast when it come out at 7:00 and see what evidence they got. Man, listen, dude. Those people, them people in them Dockers that's creased up with them boots and that cowboy hat, them Texas Rangers, bro. Listen, I'm trying to tell you. So
that Texas Raiders can't be bought. They can't be corrupted.
No.
They're only out for justice. So just think about that.
No, and I did when we did part 1. I put my information out to some of the people down there, and I guess I can say Bowie, Texas, or whatever the case may be. So we still, I got eyes down there. People people doing.
You're
what they need to
absolutely
do.
welcome.
We got some Inspector Gadgets down there trying to figure out what was going on and who was down there and who. So they'll get back to me. It is what it is on that part. Hey, so I mean, with everything going on in the community and everybody reached out and all the good things that's going on for the fight for justice, obviously for Noah. I mean, have y'all ever thought like what is going to when we get to that point?
We're gonna listen to Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan next.
And once they find out and the case get broken wide open, where do we go from here as a family? What do y'all have y'all ever thought about that? Like, okay, we got it. This person is obviously they has to go to trial, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously. So that's how we seen it. We're not just stopping just because they call you tomorrow and say, hey, this is what we got, breaking the case, we got it. Once they find the killers, you're not stopping there, right? I mean, obviously we still got a long process because you got to go to trial and all that good stuff. Have you ever thought about yourself? Have you ever gave yourself that thought to get to that point and they not get what y'all are expecting them to get? You know what I'm saying? Because some people, I'm like, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And like, bro, you took my life, man. I want to take your life. You know what I'm saying? Some people, oh, well, maybe he can, they can do right and they still got their life. I mean, how do you feel about that, Ashley? I mean, have you thought that far in process or?
Many times. I think about it a lot. Only because I do study law. So therefore it stays on my mind a lot as to what do we do next once this all really comes full circle. So with that, it'll definitely be a process.
So we looking for like, what are you looking for? Because obviously these people listen who's involved. They know that.
As far as I know, they like OHP, OSBI, all those that were gathering things for the investigation, and once it's all complete, typically it'll go to the DA's office.
And then if they come to you guys, I mean, we're not looking for no plea bargain shit, right? No. We're looking for the most, like I said,
I would want the highest level of reprimand.
Okay,
period.
What about you,
personally?
What about you, Madison? What do you want to see? You looking for the highest too? Because I know this coming, and the reason why I'm bringing this up because these people are really thinking that's who's listening and involved, thinking, man, they might come with, how they do that deal like a car salesman. Well, he'll give you this information if you give him 10 years. No, fuck that.
No.
So
nice cutie pie. Nice.
But y'all gotta know all you guys got to be on the same page though. So that's why I'm bringing this up.
Right. Well, the reason why
I don't know, Granny.
I said I want the highest level of reprimands because you've had 4 months to speak and it's been nothing but radio silence. So you could have done whatever you wanted to within your time and you did nothing. So that's my personal reasoning.
So plea deals would be off the table as far as you're concerned.
For you. Yeah. What about you, Madison?
Correct.
Honestly, I haven't thought that far. I think my main thought is I want to know what happened.
Right.
And I know that like after that point, then all these other things come and like I would give any amount of money in the world just for somebody to talk. I would genuinely and just break it all open and then you have your person. But I know that's not how that works. And I can't give like a definite answer of exactly what I'd want because right now all I want is an answer.
What about you, Rob?
Like Madison, I hadn't really thought too hard on that. I just really wanted to know mainly what happened, and I mean, it's kind of a circle there because you want to know but then you don't want to know, like you don't want the specifics but you want the specifics, but I'm kind of with Ashley on you've had 4 months to talk, you've had 4 months to come forward and be honest, and you're going to wait until the guns are loaded and the cops are ready to come down on you to talk. Like you're not talking to be helpful at that point. You're talking to save your ass. So your ass can get the full maximum, in my opinion.
Man. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you guys too, man. Anything happening, God forbid, man, it's just I just don't see it. I just don't, even if it's somebody that you close with, and if it's their kid, even if it's your boss's kid, bruh, you still can go home and hug your kid. You still can be in jail, have those conversations. They still can write you, whatever the case may be. Nah, man, you going. Hey, the death penalties were still good. I don't know about what they got in Oklahoma City. I mean, Oklahoma. I don't know what y'all got.
Yeah, we offer the death penalty, but I doubt in a case, unless it was like 100% malicious.
Yeah.
The death penalties, wouldn't be a death penalty case.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, to me, death penalty, you get off too easy.
Yeah.
I want to see you get life without parole.
Yeah.
You're in that prison 24 hours a day for the rest of your life. Every time you may come up for parole, but guess what?
You're not getting it.
Not getting it.
No, because we know that y'all will be there.
Yep.
Yeah, and see, that's what people don't realize, man. They really thought. I really do think this, and I may be wrong, but they really thought that y'all guys was the family that was just going to be quiet and not stir up some noise. I think that's why we was getting all the kickback on these emails, because it's like, I know. Listen, guys, I know y'all hate us up there. I don't care. But y'all listening?
Now I tell you, we got more fan mail than we did hate.
Exactly.
Mail. We only got 2 hate mail, and
I'm gonna fast forward a little because I mean, I don't know. I was trying to learn more about any details they may have pertaining to Noah,
and that tells me right there with that. Yeah. That tells me emails every.
Oh
no, they can't do that. No. You listening?
They know a lot more than they're like, not a big deal. There was again, like Eric said a while ago, if you know something about this, you better speak up so you don't get severely intoxicated by all these little snakes.
This is what I know.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you to call that.
They are completely out of it. They do not have their hands in it at all at this point.
I feel like they would drop the ball on it anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would sweep that information under the rug. So call Oklahoma Highway Patrol, call the Texas Rangers down in Austin, or if you have a tip and want to remain anonymous, you can actually email myself and Eric at thefulload@gmail.com. or send us a message on our Facebook, Full Load on Facebook. You remain anonymous. I'm just going to take your tip, turn it into Ashley, Robin, and all them guys, and you will remain anonymous. I guarantee it.
Nah, bruh. Don't give them no tip. Nah. We ain't doing that. No, do not give your tips to the Full Load podcast, please. And thank you. Only law enforcement. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's go to Joseph Scott Morgan.
Time to refuel yourself this afternoon. Grab a freshly brewed bean to cup crazy good coffee. Build your best blend and customize with our wide variety of creamers and toppings. Get what you need to get back on track today. Wherever you're headed in Atlanta, Racetrack's here for whatever gets you going. And you'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, no, we ain't gonna co-sign
us
that.
on your way. Racetrack. Whatever gets you going.
Your new home journey starts at Fisher Homes, where
No.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. When you're a kid, you're growing up out in heartland, rural areas. You know what you spend most of the time doing, other than probably working on property that your parents have. You go to school. There's no city really to go into and hang out at. You rely heavily on your friends for entertainment. You entertain one another, actually. And those forms of entertainment can involve any number of things: sitting around a bonfire, having a few beers, even underage, riding around in the back of your buddy's pickup truck, just going to spontaneous parties at someone's home. But, even with all that going on, you still...
Thank you for hanging out, Granny. Love you. I hope you start feeling better. Tell Papa would better be taking care of you.
There's a level of safety and familiarity you have with that location that you grow up in. Today, we're going to discuss a death that I guess now has been under investigation for near about a year. It's a death that occurred out in rural Oklahoma. It's a death involving a young man who was found, his body was found broken and bleeding on the side of a road, wearing shoes and nothing else but the shoes that he was wearing didn't match. As a matter of fact, one of the shoes belonged to someone else. Today, we're going to talk about the death and autopsy of Noah Presgrove. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Today, we got a whole bunch of rural.
Yeah, we live in a rural area, not that dissimilar from Oklahoma, where Noah Presgrove grew up. He's 19, graduated from high school, and he's at an end of summer Labor Day 22nd birthday party, all rolled into one on this weekend. The reason we're talking about Noah Presgrove's death is because his autopsy has come out. Police are still not investigating this as if it's a murder, and yet it doesn't fit into a hit and run. And the best that police can come up with is that maybe he fell out of the back of a truck. The injuries don't match that either. So today, we're going to talk about the death and the autopsy of 19-year-old Noah Presgrove. But before we do that, I want to say a very quick hello and thank you to Jennifer Williamson Ward. She is a friend of Cheryl McCullum, and she sent a message to us about this story. And Jennifer, I have to tell you, I mentioned it to Joe. And in the world that we live in terms of on the air, radio and TV and what have you, and podcasting, this is a story that Joe has covered extensively, from Court TV to Nancy to News Nation, I'm sure. I mean, if there's a crime-related show, they ask Joe, especially when it deals with something along the lines of what we're getting ready to talk about, and that is the death of a 19-year-old man who, by the way, I've never seen a laundry list of injuries so severe when there was not a murder investigation.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because the injuries are so extensive that he was presenting with at autopsy. I would imagine that the pathologist that's doing the examination is scratching their head and they're thinking, well, where do I begin? Mm-hmm. Because when they would have gotten this young man's body, there would have been some external manifestations, as we know that there were, relative to injuries that could be evidenced externally. But when I can almost see, because I've had to look on my face, I can almost see the look on everyone's faces when they started doing postmortem x-rays on this kid's body. And it would have been so glaringly obvious, the trauma that this kid sustained. Whenever you have a case like this, Dave, where you've got so much trauma, it's important. And it's almost like a game plan. If you go into a game, a big game, there's so many moving parts. You need to have enough data on your side to understand what you're going to do. Because if you just go into a case like this randomly without doing any kind of pre-investigation or a pre-examination of the body, and external examination, which includes x-rays, you're bumping around in the dark and you're going to miss something. So if you can go in with this idea of, okay, this is what the radiographs are showing me. This is the information that has come in from law enforcement that were at the scene. This is information that they have gotten through interviews. You need to be armed with this because, Dave, this is so complex. It's so intertwined. And you don't know where one group of injuries stops and the other one starts. And the big thing here is sequencing. How did all of this occur? Because there's so much here.
All right. So when a situation arises like this, in this particular case, where there had been a party taking place over a weekend and Noah's body is found at 5:53 a.m. on September the 4th. Now we're dealing with last September. His body was found on the side of the road. He was curled up in the fetal position, naked, except for, as you mentioned, the mixed match shoes. One was not even his. A passing truck driver saw him and reported it, called 911. Now, Noah has a brother that had heard, I don't know how, okay, but there was a lot of, calls were being made early on. Of course,
it's a small town, and news travels quick.
He knew something had happened, that Noah was whatever, and he goes to the scene. Now, by the time his brother gets there, Noah's body has already been covered. But he said he could recognize Noah from the shape of his body, on the ground. He was in the fetal position, and the blood had soaked through the sheet that they had covering him. And just so you know, that would be the sheet, whatever, laying on top of his body, on top of some area that had blood. Because if it was, I tend to think of seeping as going down, not up. But his brother was talking about certain things that he saw at the scene. And in coming to this blind, because I didn't want any kind of preconceived notions as to what had taken place.
Gotcha.
And his brother said, I saw teeth. And I'm like, okay, he's finding teeth, and a pair of shorts are folded near him. He's nude. He's in a fetal position. I find teeth near his body, his teeth, and a pair of shorts folded near his body. So here we go, Joe. It's just before 6 a.m. Police show up. They start doing the investigation. All right, he's been at a party during the course of the weekend. The injuries to this young man.
No, I didn't.
We're going to have to go through.
Hold on. Let me see. Since those cell phones were Texas, is that maybe a hit and run, or is that party house near the border? I believe it's near the border, if I'm not mistaken, Southern Gal.
Them very carefully because they are so extensive.
Grandma.
Yes,
and
they are.
I've never seen this in reporting these types of, and we've reported plenty situations where there was a weekend party, a fight breaks out, a couple of guys gang up on somebody. There are some bad tales to tell like that. If this is one of those, there were probably 10 different, on their own, fatal injuries to Noah Presgrove. That tells you how bad this was.
It was. And, before we step off into the world of the injuries, you got to talk about the scene. This is a rural, isolated area. And the one thing that sticks out to me, first off, the comment of the brother. I've worked cases, and it's well documented in all of the literature. You can see this when you have motor vehicle accidents. There are people, famously. Okay, let me start off here. There's this precept that is always put forward that anytime a pedestrian is struck by a vehicle, they're automatically knocked out of their shoes. I've had so many people tell me that over the years. It doesn't always happen. It's kind of like people talking about suicides and the weapon being found away from the body. Like the body is supposed to be holding the weapon that doesn't happen every time. Just like people are not always knocked out of their shoes. That doesn't always happen. But I can tell you what does happen many times with clothing in particular is that clothing, if you think about the spinning of the tires, when a body is struck, a pedestrian is struck. Many times if a body is captured beneath the undercarriage of the car, the clothing will be twisted and ripped off of the body. Dave, it's not what the brother said. He said Noah was nude in a fetal position, and we'll get to the teeth in a second. His undershorts were found on the road, folded. Now, I don't know what had happened prior to Noah's brother arriving at the scene, but if I hear that somebody's underwear are folded, and I don't know how to validate this, I don't know if the police have remarked about this and explained this thing that the brother was witnessing. How do undershorts wind up getting folded, particularly if you're thinking, well, maybe they got ripped off in the accident or whatever it is that happened, because whatever happened involved a tremendous amount of impact. I'll put it this way. I've actually worked parachute failures where the parachute failed to deploy that have fewer fractures than this kid had.
Wow.
Let that sink in just for a second. I mean, and that's, and the reason is pretty simple, is that when a body is impacted, it's not generally impacted on multiple locations with this amount of force to generate underlying fractures. Okay, I'll just kind of plainly say that. So that leaves us with, a great big, kind of question mark here, wondering what was the generator? How did this happen? How did he wind up in this isolated area? And was there something more that may have occurred at a party that Noah attended, or did it occur as he was leaving the party and wound up at this location?
Racetrack. Whatever gets you
Out of form to connect with a new home.
But yeah, a little. And I was being kind.
Yes, you were.
And so there was a party. There was a party. We know that. And
by selecting your ideal home site and your dream community, choose from a variety of expertly designed floor plans and bring your style to life at the Lifestyle Design Center. Are you looking for a quick move-in ready home instead? Fisher Homes has options for those too. Fill out a form to connect with a new home advisor at fisherhomes.com to get started today before the sun.
I absolutely agree.
Hey, Dave, you ever heard that saying that says, and it varies from time to time, nothing good happens after 11 p.m. or nothing good happens
nothing after midnight.
Yeah, after midnight. I know Noah was at a party and kind of in and out. The details are a little bit murky.
A little?
But yeah, a little. And I was being kind.
Yes, you were.
And so there was a party. We know that. And it was a celebratory event.
Yeah.
And there were many young people there. Can you kind of run this time? Because timing is everything in this case. Can you kind of break this down for us and give us an idea?
The murky part of it is that there was social media being fed pictures and what have you of all of the partying that was going on. A girl turned 22, somebody they all grew up with. We hit this in the first segment about being close-knit. Everybody knows one another. When everybody knows one another, you have a tendency to have smoldering problems. You get an issue with somebody. And maybe you're not tight with them. You're tight with these people. But now you're in together, and I just don't like that guy. Never have. Hated him in third grade. You wiped a book around me or something. It stays with you in an area like this. But this party was going on. It was well, first of all, Labor Day weekend. It was a 22nd birthday.
I swear to God, it wasn't me, cutie.
A day party for a girl. It was an end of summer party for the adults. Most of these kids were out of high school. Noah had graduated a year previously, and he was looking at a future that included possibly joining the military. That's what he was considering. So they gathered together at this party over a weekend. Now, my first thought when I saw it was, this is one of those kind of keggers that you go to on a Friday night, and, it kind of goes on all weekend. You party, you listen to music, and the next day you wake up whenever, and, pretty much go right back to it. But that's not what happened. It was a multi-day event that took place. But the partiers left, or at least Noah left, and went home and cleaned himself up and then went back the next night. During the course of this weekend, Labor Day weekend event, Noah did have back up. Noah and 5 other guys, 6 guys rode this big ATV. It's referred to as a Ranger vehicle, an ATV Ranger vehicle. Noah and 5 other people are on this Ranger vehicle, and they had an accident. It wasn't bumping into a car. It wasn't bumping into a pole. It wasn't hitting a curb. It was a rollover incident. First of all, these ATV Ranger vehicles are not cheap. They are adult toys.
Yes.
And it was an adult toy that got rolled over. The way they make it seem is that Noah might have been the driver of said vehicle. I don't know if that's the case. But one thing we do know is that it was bad enough that when he came up dead, that was the first thing people thought, hey, he got hurt in this ATV accident. He did get hurt, but not bad enough that it required him to go to the hospital or anything. He was hurt, but he went back to the party.
Dave, when you have events, and you mentioned a rollover
supposedly
event, and these Ranger vehicles, they come in a couple of different configurations.
He went back to the party supposedly. We really don't know.
You have 2-seater or 4-seater. They make this thing sound like it's like a 4-seater. They've got roll bars on them.
Unless there's videos of him partying after that, we don't know.
So if the thing tips over and they're talking about a rollover event, just because there's a rollover doesn't mean that you're not going to sustain injuries. And I have seen people, Dave, that have been involved in motor vehicle accidents where they get up and they are walking, talking, fully oriented to time and space, and 8 hours later they die. And that's because something along the way was clipped internally, generally some type of smaller vessel, and it's a slow bleed internally. And then all of a sudden, it's classic. What you begin to see is that suddenly they become very sleepy, speech becomes slurred, they become disoriented, and then the next thing you know, they're out cold on the ground, and they've got these kind of, it's almost like a death rattle they have because they're slipping off into a coma because they're losing blood. And the oxygen level, the supply to the brain is dropping precipitously. And it's a horrible thing to witness. This does, in fact, happen. So we can't completely discard that possibility that it's, we talk a lot about the totality of injuries that an individual sustains. It might not be just singularly a one-time event. It could be a combination of events. And I'm sure that that's what the pathologist was trying to consider in this.
And I think it's important to note that it was a bad enough accident that it was brought up that he was not hurt, because it's the assumption, if you say, well, he wasn't hurt, he actually must have shown some injury, but not bad enough to quit. You're 19, you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof, for crying out loud.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And look, if you, here's the thing, and this is kind of cool scientifically. If you sustain, let's say you sustain an injury, and maybe you don't think much of it at the time, it hurts upon initial impact. What your body begins to
like this
do, there's a trauma response in your body. So let's just say you have a broken rib, you get popped in the side, and you don't know that necessarily that this is some kind of fatal or lethal event, but yet it hurts, but it's not something that, is going to get you down on your knees. All right. But what the trauma response in the body is that first off, it's going to hemorrhage. And secondly, it's going to swell. And we know for a fact that swelling, or the ecchymosis that surrounds that damaged tissue, Dave, it takes a prescribed amount of time for that to happen. So when you're examining somebody in the morgue and you're looking for these injuries and trying to interpret them, one thing you're going to look for are these little breadcrumbs to say, okay, you know what? This injury might be older than these other ones that occurred at the time of death. First off, if something occurred at the time of death, it's not going to be presenting with the amount of swelling, for instance, that something that had happened hours before or a day before.
Cash, this was Labor Day, so September 4th, 2023.
Before may be experiencing, it'll look completely different. How do you make sense of all of this? When you have, say, for instance, old injuries that are now potentially being coupled with new injuries that are discovered at autopsy, maybe these things are even recognized out on the scene. How is it that you're able, as a scientist, to delineate between what is older and what is newer? And sometimes those answers are not as obvious as you might think that they are.
Racetrack.
For those too, fill out a form to connect with a new home advisor at fisherhomes.com to get started today before the sun sets on summer savings.
I don't normally do this sort of thing on this podcast, but I got to tell you, I got to give you a word of warning. What we're going to talk about right now is, even by body bag standards, is kind of graphic, but it has to be stated, and I'm going to try in my own little way to interpret and give you an idea of what could generate these types of injuries. And in many cases, there are multiple ways that these types of injuries can be generated. But you got
the police theory that he was thrown out the back of a truck that was moving, Joe. Yeah. I want you guys to pay attention to these injuries, because you're not going to find, if you were thrown out of the back of a truck, you're going to have road rash over your legs. Yes. You're going to have arms. You're going to have a lot of those types. And I'm saying that because I've been thrown out of the back of the truck. Not by friends throwing me out. We actually were being stupid and I fell. And I know the injuries I had, and we weren't, they were all over, and my legs took the brunt of it for the most part, knees, feet, ankles, what have you. And he does not have those types of injuries that actually match up to someone that was pitched out of the back of a truck. I'm just saying that because as we break these down, that's what I went into it thinking happened. And I went, how do they even say that out loud? Take a look at this list, Joe, that you're going, and I want you to explain just right off the bat, 10 broken ribs.
With 10 broken ribs is really something that, and you have to think about the orientation of these fractures. Are they all married up, like on the horizontal plane? Do they kind of match up as you go down the rib cage? Like when you're going down the fifth rib and the fifth rib, are they both concurrently fractured? And does it approximate the same anatomical location? If that's happening, then maybe you took a full-on impact of a motor vehicle striking you in your chest and you're on your knees. Probability of that is very low, because you would have other associated things that you would find with that. The other thing that you get with fractured ribs is something that folks may or may not have heard of before. It's called a flail chest. And what happens is that when your ribs are fractured, they're almost free floating within your chest cavity, and you'll get multiple lung punctures, and your lungs and your pleural spaces, which are the area around your lungs, begin to fill with blood. So you have that going on in and of itself with the ribs. and to get 10 broken ribs, Dave, is something that I don't know that you would get from a single event. You might get that from a single event, but there's not going to be this many other associated injuries. Just think about it. If you were a kid and you were in a tree house, okay, and you fell out of the tree house, you're going to impact on one location on your body, maybe the back of your head, maybe your shoulder, maybe your hip, maybe you're going to bend your knees under you, Lord help you, and land on both of your knees from a height. But that's a single point of impact. We got stuff here that at least implies that there are like multiple impacts with a significant amount of force, because you're talking about underlying fractures, Dave.
And that's why I said earlier that there are at least 10 injuries that on their own with nothing else could have been fatal. Go through the rest of the show. I'm going to sit here and shut up because I really, for the life of me,
well, I think the thing that
I'm frustrated by what the police have said.
I know,
I'm really frustrated.
It is frustrating. I think probably
there's no way this didn't happen. That happened by falling out of the back of a truck. That did not happen.
Well, maybe if you fell out of the back of a truck multiple times is what I think I'd like to say.
Yeah, let me hop back up and try that again. I didn't break my leg this time. Come on.
I know, and that's kind of what you're thinking about, and I know that they're thinking about this. The ME is certainly thinking about this. Is it possible to generate? And listen, again, I go back to this idea that they've left the thing unclassified. They have not classified it, and that's a big piece to this, because the cops can say basically whatever they want to say about what they're seeing at the scene. However, if the ME is not signing off on this thing with a particular classification, that gives me an indication that they're still wanting more information, that they're scratching their heads over it. I think probably the thing that jumps out the most is that they talk about this one central impact to the skull, which, Dave, I got to tell you, it sounds like. And it's apparently a very, very extensive injury, but it sounds like a single impact that is almost being described as it seems to me is almost like a depressed skull fracture, which means that the skull is not just simply fractured, where you fracture like if you have a boiled egg and you kind of crack it, and it creates like this kind of curvilinear, manifestation, where we're talking about if you take that egg and press it in. Have you ever done that with a boiled egg? You press it in on the sides and it literally depresses, and it's almost like a ring that it creates, and it kind of spider webs out. That kind of sounds like what they're talking about. It sounds like a depressed skull fracture. How do you get that? Well, I guess you could get it if you hit just right on the back of your head on the road. But, I've seen depressed skull fractures with baseball bats, hammers, pipes. I've seen people with depressed skull fractures that have been pistol whipped. Not saying any of that happened, but just that injury alone, just standing all by itself is a lethal injury, because, dude, when they opened up his skull, there was a copious amount of blood that poured out of the cranial vault.
What does that mean to you?
Well, it means that you've got multiple vessels within the skull that are fractured. And if you like that one, I got one that's even worse. And this is something I have never mentioned on this podcast.
Yeah, because his head was caved in.
If you will put your fingers adjacent to your external ear canal on both sides, if you put your index fingers on both sides, imagine drawing a line through the floor of your skull right there. Noah has got what sounds like a hinge fracture, and the hinge fracture literally involves going all the way across the floor of the skull internally, so that, and these fractures are amazing. When you see them, you get an idea of how much force is involved. When you remove the brain, after you've taken the skull cap off where this other fracture would have been, when you remove the brain, that's where all this blood is coming from. You grab the top of the skull up by the forehead where you've made your incision in the back of the skull, you can actually open the skull along the floor of the skull, and it looks like a giant mouth, like moving like this, and it goes all the way across, many times either anterior or right across the foramen magnum, which is where your spinal cord dumps down into your spinal column. And I've seen it involved in both locations, and it's like this gaping maw that's in there. Dave, that you have to have so much force in order to generate that insult alone, that it gives you pause. Okay, hinge fractures don't occur all the time, and when you see them, it's like, if you're standing there with a forensic pathologist, they'll say, oh my God, we got a hinge fracture. It's like, okay, you get the photography person over there, you're going to want to take a picture of this. Not that you wouldn't otherwise, but the pathologist is going to want like a tremendous number of photographs taken of this, because this is a significant finding. You look at that in and of itself, all of that head trauma is just absolutely amazing. Now, he's got brain damage in the sense that it's traumatically related. So you'll have both indwelling hemorrhage within the brain itself. There's external damage to the brain. There'll be a lot of blood, coagulated blood, more than likely, that is just resting on the surface of the brain, and certainly within the durasac, which, if you think of the durasac that encompasses the brain, it's almost like a placenta. Matter of fact, it actually, if you take the dura mater, and lay it alongside a placenta, it looks a lot like that. It's kind of a protective bag that encases the brain itself, and it's a wash in spinal fluid. It kind of lubricates the brain, because you wouldn't want your brain just sitting inside your skull, because the edges are so rough in there. And so the dura acts almost like a shock absorber for the brain. So you would have a tremendous amount of blood contained in there. There were 4 separate areas of trauma on the organ, the brain itself, and not to mention this trauma. We talk about cerebrospinal trauma. Okay, you hear doctors talk about this a lot. So Noah's head and brain were not, skull and brain were not just impacted, but also his spinal cord. You get down to the C1, you've got multiple cervical vertebra, and the C1 is what classically we refer to as the Atlas. If you think about the Titan Atlas from Greek mythology, Atlas is that gigantic being that is holding up the earth. And the reason they call C1 the Atlas is because it is literally where the skull is resting, and it's supporting, from a skeletal standpoint, it's supporting the skull.
He's so good.
The C1, Dave, in this case, is actually displaced. Good. Okay, so it's been
this dude. I love Joseph Scott Morgan. I could just listen to him forever.
Knocked out for
he sounds super smart, right? Like he sounds intelligent, but the way he puts it out, I can understand it.
Lack of a better term, in layman's terms, it has been displaced. So it's kind of knocked out of alignment. As a matter of fact, some have described this as a displacement that might be consistent with what you would see in a judicial hanging, which leads to death. So if when people talk about the snapping of a neck when they're falling from a height, the C1, C2 is what's impacted. And when
He's
people
talking
are,
about what's on
are
the
in judicial
screen
hangings,
right
that's what I'm
here.
talking about. I'm not talking about anything self-inflicted here. The goal was that we fall from such a height that it would displace the C1 and C2, which are a critical level in the spine. That if those things are displacing, it's incompatible with life, okay? Because it impacts those basic functions that are required just for the autonomic nervous system to fire, like keeping your heart beating and doing, respirations and all that other regulatory stuff. So that has been impacted, for lack of a better term. We've got what they found was a skin on the left side of the scalp had been torn away off of the brain, off of the bone. So it means it's been ripped from the skull itself, which again is kind of a friction related type of event. I guess you could say that somebody could have traumatized him individually, but most of the time you see something like that. That's the idea of the dynamic of somebody perhaps rolling down the road, and it goes from an abrasion to a tearing laceration where it's kind of ripped through. And as the police began to work the scene where Noah's found, it wasn't just teeth, that were out there at the scene, and we'll get to that in just a second. But Dave, they actually found a clump of hair and skin away from the body in the middle of the road, which means that's probably hair that is attached to a portion of the scalp that was torn away. It was laying there. Again, that requires a tremendous amount of force. You've got the buttock, the right buttock is traumatized. Here's another thing that, we talked about teeth, both upper and lower. So you're talking about your maxillary teeth, which are your upper teeth, and your mandibular teeth, which are embedded in your jaw, your lower teeth. They're broken and they're in fragments. And you've also got upper and lower teeth that are strewn across the roadway. Dave, when people talk about having trauma to the mouth and they lose a tooth, what do they say? They generally don't say, I got my teeth knocked out. They say, I got a tooth knocked out.
Right.
Brother, he's got teeth that are fractured and missing, okay, that are strewn about. Now, we have to think that, again, this could be a high-velocity impact event where he may very well have fallen on the ground. But, my thought was, well, it obviously involves the head, more than likely that depressed area in the skull that generated the initial injury. But now you've got teeth that are coming out of his head.
How like a curb stomp. That's what it sounded like.
I don't know, but with fractured teeth, it's certainly, I'd like to know, I think one of the things I'd be very interested in knowing, and I don't necessarily have this information, I would like to know what kind of trauma existed relative to the exterior of the mouth, like the lip.
Oh, thank you, Okie. I appreciate that. Let me play something for you. I'm going to play a shorter one just because we're in the middle of this. Johnson. Thank you, babe.
Lips and the jaw.
Now, he did have a cut on his lip, and he had a cut on his tongue. But can I back up to something?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you again, Okie. I appreciate it. You don't have to do that. I appreciate it. If you got that gifted membership, make sure you thank Okie. Okie dokie.
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Okay. You mentioned the clump of hair that was found in the middle of the highway. Well, there was a clump of hair that was observed on the right buttock without blood or tissue. And it was specific to that. It said without blood or tissue.
Yes.
And it was different than the clump of hair that was found in the middle of the road. It was like this, that he was tortured, the hair, and it was put there for a reason.
Yeah, and who's to know what the dynamic of this event is? He is nude. So how would hair from the head, presumably, and they don't specify what the nature of the hair is. I mean, it might be pubic hair, I guess.
Yeah.
Could be hair off of his chest. I have no idea. But they do make a point of that where they're talking about a clump of hair. Clump of hair, it gives you an idea that something has been pulled loose, right? That it has been taken out at the root, perhaps, or broken off superior to the root ball, and that this has been left behind. How does that hair? And I think a question I would ask as a forensics guy, I'd want to validate that hair. I'd want to know, was it Noah's hair? First off, was it human hair? Was it an animal? We're talking about out in the wild. And there's animal hair on the roadway. I'd argue that. I'd say, well, how do we know the provenance of the hair? What's point of origin? What species is it? Is it his? Does it look like his hair color? Is he missing hair that had been torn out? Other than
possible that an animal could have done it?
I don't know. That's just it. And to this point, I don't see any evidence that an animal has been involved in this. I would just like to know the origin of it. All we can do in forensics is document what we see there. It's hard to really extrapolate further than that. But it is certainly an interesting finding. I don't know that I've ever seen that kind of phraseology before.
I haven't, and I read these things all the time. And I have done stories where hair was pulled out, and it just sounds like the most painful thing. Of course, on this list of things, I'm still beyond the pale, Joe, but he's bleeding out of his ears.
Yes.
Got teeth thrown everywhere.
But bleeding out of the ears is consistent with the hinge fracture, by the way. And you would probably also, and you probably, if looking closely, you could probably see cerebral spinal fluid. You know how when you're a kid, and if you take a first aid class, they tell you to look for clear fluid coming from the ears. That's what I'm talking about. So you'll get this kind of commingled, with a hinge fracture, you'll see kind of a commingled cerebral spinal fluid along with blood, and it's got kind of a straw color to it. Matter of fact, pathologists will describe it as having a straw-like appearance, the color of straw, and it's tinged with blood. So that would come from that area. And again, that goes to something has happened that has compromised the structural integrity of the spinal column with this displacement. And brother, it wasn't just a C1. I failed to mention that he's got a fractured C2, which obviously is just beneath the C1, and C6. We're going down the column now. C6 and C7 were also fractured to varying degrees. And there's multiple features on each one of these things. You've got these horns that are on it, and there's various anatomical features where it can be fractured. Again, vertebral bodies just in and of themselves are they are a very robust bone. And when I say that, they're thick. They're there for, think about what they're protecting, man. Right. They're protecting your spinal column. It's just like the skull, particularly on the back, is very robust and thick. It is that way for a very specific reason. So the impact has essentially defeated this naturally occurring structure within the body that is meant to take a tremendous amount of punishment. So how does it account for all of these other insults that he has all over his body? And again, look, I've got to state full disclosure here. He's got what they're describing as grazes. There's abrasions, and you've got them on multiple surfaces, which many times are associated with rollover injuries. So if you've got scrapes and abrasions, and they're kind of what they call wraparound injuries, that's traditionally what you're looking for. So if the vehicle is spinning, the body will be spinning. Okay, and you hit asphalt, gravel, you're going to get this horrible dynamic where you'll have these abraded, and they'll be linear many times, and they'll cut a wide swath. I'll never forget. I had a cousin of mine who was literally run over by a dump truck when he was working on a levee in Louisiana. He had the tire tracks across his. He's got this great picture of tire tracks running across his chest. You can actually his tandem wheels, and you can see it. And he survived, but he had all those. And I remember from when I was a little kid, we were amazed. We thank God that he survived. He wound up becoming a preacher.
Makes sense, actually.
Yeah, it does. And you can see all
survived that one.
Yeah, you can see all these abrasions, and it was the tire tread itself left an impression, but it's also abrading the skin as it's rolling over. You take that and you think about the dynamic of a body flying through the air and spinning, makes contact with a rough surface like a roadway, you're going to get the same kind of abrasions, David.
Well, Joe, now, there were other things that were on his body that they were able to determine were in various stages of healing, abrasions on scabs and what have you. But have you ever seen anything like this where there wasn't some type of mechanical failure with a car, a boat, being thrown from a building, any number of things? This is ostensibly a kid, a 19-year-old young man, leaves a party after an argument and is by himself and ends up with all these injuries. Police are saying they're not investigating it like it's a murder. By the way, for those who think there was a hit and run involved to cause these types of injuries, there was there's nothing indicating there was a hit and run. There were no parts of a car, no
skid marks, nothing.
Nothing.
And look, one other thing, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump on you here, or not jump on you, but interrupt you. When you think about a pedestrian being struck by a vehicle, there's something that we refer to as bumper marks. So if you're talking about being struck in the thigh or the lower legs, you'll have a definitive line. And think about a bumper on a car. It makes sense. It's two parallel lines like this running in the horizontal plane. They're striking you if you're standing erect. And you can clearly see that many times. Dave, I've even seen grill impressions on bodies where I saw, I can't remember, I think it was a Buick, where I saw the Buick emblem literally pressed into the skin. And so that's a classic finding, and grill marks too, classic finding of a pedestrian being struck by a vehicle. But you're not hearing this. And so I think that's their default position, is falling out of the back of a truck as opposed to being struck by a vehicle that is going through the person. I don't mean through literally, but where you've got a static individual standing in the middle of the road and they're struck by a vehicle, those injuries are going to look different. And this is almost, and here's another theory I really wonder, Dave. All of these injuries that he sustained, I'm really wondering if he had come out of a vehicle, wound up on the roadway. Was there another vehicle that passed by that didn't see him in the middle of the night and then ran over him again? That has happened. It's a dark road. He was not found until the next morning. There was a trucker that found him, there in the light of day. I think that all of these things have to be factored in to the totality of these circumstances to try to understand it. And then there's the specter that people keep talking about. I don't know how to either validate it or invalidate it. I'm in the same position, I think, that the medical examiner's in, just talking. Of course, I don't have that level of responsibility here, but that's the pieces of the puzzle for the ME to put this thing together so that they can actually come up with a ruling where they're going to say, okay, this was an accident, this was a homicide, or however they're going to come down on this thing. I wonder what it will be.
The ME didn't even go out there.
That will push them toward that decision. Because I got to tell you, Dave, all this data, the timeline, the information about an ATV accident that still remains a mystery, and the combination of all of these injuries and their documentation feels as though we still don't have any more answers than when we first started. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
And that was Body Bags. So basically, yeah, we're still left in there with no idea what's going on. All right, so we are donezoed for now. In 2 days, the third part of the podcast comes out. So I will go live with that for those who want to be here for that. I'm going to go live in a little while, I think. Maybe. Probably. I'm going to go live in a little while about our one and only Bull Scorn Betty. All right. So here is Amax link. And this is her cover of Tears in Heaven. Thank y'all for being here. I'll catch you in a little bit. Bye. Thank you, Southern Gal. I appreciate it, babe.
Tonight, you in heaven, on it by the side, you in heaven. I must be found until we go. 'Cause I don't belong in heaven. When tonight, day, 'cause I just can't stay here together. Such burning down Time can back to me. Separation, have you back and clean, breathing free. We go. This is my soul. I that we see us in heaven. Hey, yes, you and it is. Hey, I must be strong and gentle. 'Cause I don't belong here in heaven. 'Cause I belong here.
Deep down, we are all the same. We all want to be happy. We cry when we're hurt. We're angry when we've been mistreated. And to be liked, accepted, and respected, not to mention loved, is the greatest gift of all. Yes, we're all alike. On that note, take care of yourself and each other.
We all swim